Welcome to my review of Paris. Before we get into it, make sure you are liking and subscribing to my channel if you want to see more honest reviews of traveling with kids and just traveling in general. And by the way, this is just Paris. Like, I've been to Marseille, France, which I absolutely loved and did not get the same vibe from at all. So this is specifically just a review of Paris. I'll get right into it because Paris, honestly, it was just not my favorite place to travel. People say that they only go for 1 or 2 days, and that is actually exactly what I would recommend. So we went for 4 days total. Those days really was kind of more of a travel day. So really 3 days total, directly in the city, about a 6-minute walk from the Eiffel Tower. We stayed at Le Grand Hotel Levique, which if you're gonna stay in the city, I honestly would not do a boutique hotel. I would just do a big chain hotel. It was a mom and daughter trip, so kind of what I'm looking for when we go to like a big city. I'm looking for ease of transportation, you know, easy to get places, easy to figure out as a foreigner, fun things to do, of course, activities, the food, and then kind of like that iconic bucket list things you have to like go see before you die. Safety, making sure that it is a relatively safe place to go spend some time. Paris definitely has a lot of those very iconic things there. But first, I'm going to get into what I liked, and then I'm going to get into what I didn't like so much. First thing that I liked, and this actually has a lot of pro and cons, are the museums in Paris. And the museums in Paris are fantastic. Two museums, went to the Louvre and Musée d'Orsay, and they have incredible works of art there. I mean, it is just insane how big they are, how many they have there. It's incredible, especially if you really like art, or your kid really likes art, or you're just even some person that's like not even really that into art. They are just incredible to see. You kind of have to see them before you die. And they are extremely busy and extremely crowded, and that can kind of take away from the enjoyment. They are busy at all times of the day forever. There is not a time that you can go that it's really going to be less busy. I really liked the playgrounds for young kids. There are playgrounds all around Paris, everywhere, specifically for young kids. Really nice to have the break in museums to playgrounds. So okay, we go to a museum and then we can go get some energy out on the playground, be able to sit and enjoy the fresh air. So that contrast was actually really nice, and I think it was really unique, pretty much specifically to Paris, that those were everywhere. Also Paris, the third thing that I really liked about Paris was it's iconic. You know, it's one of those, okay, you have to see the Eiffel Tower. It's kind of things I did not like about Paris. So the first thing was kind of that it lacked personality, and like, if you know, you know. If this is gonna make sense, it's gonna make sense. If not, it's not. And into like feeling a different kind of vibe. I don't feel like Paris really had that. It was kind of just like a city with a lot of touristy things to do. So it was fun to do the iconic things and to see them, and like that was all fun and great. But other than that, it was very much just a city. Reminded me a lot of New York City. It was pretty much essentially a European version of New York City to me, except for the fact that New York has a lot of personality. Paris, I didn't really feel it from there. Cleanliness was the second thing that I didn't like. Again, very much like New York City, this is not necessarily a super clean city, although there was a sanitation worker strike when we were visiting, so maybe it was a little bit worse. The third thing that I didn't really like about Paris, and also really surprised me, was there was not that much English spoken, as I would expect for a major tourist hub. I am 100% for learning the language before you go places and making sure you know you can order, get around. That's always what I'm doing when I'm visiting a new country, to respect the culture and learn a little bit. Is really needed French to get around, which was kind of shocking to me, because every other major city that I visited around the entire world, you have not needed the foreign language to be able to get around well. Like the subway stations, you actually needed to know French, and you needed to know specifically what you were asking for, else they don't really speak a lot of English, or you just were not going to get what you needed. Ordering food as well, you definitely needed to be able to order food in French. So that to me, it was just a little shocking, necessarily a con. It did make getting around a little bit more difficult. Fourth thing that I wasn't really a fan of was the transportation. I actually thought the transportation was kind of difficult to use. I had trouble finding the metro stations, the subway stations, had a really hard time finding them. To use a lot more French than I really know to be able to get the specific cards. A lot of research to know which cards to get. That was difficult. Late, the buses ran late. The buses were extremely crowded. Everything was very crowded. None of it was clean. I don't think it was easy to use. It just wasn't clean. It just was not my favorite. If you are visiting Paris, I highly recommend really researching the transportation systems there, the subways, specific cards you're going to get, be able to converse that in French, because you're going to have a much easier time that way. The fifth thing that I wasn't a huge fan on was the The crowds, again, it is extremely crowded. This is major city. You're going to be battling crowds. There's a ton of people out. There's a ton of people in the transportation systems. Again, it's just incredibly busy. And we went in March, which is not supposed to be a super busy tourist time. So just the city itself is super crowded. Similar crowd levels to New York City. Because it's so crowded and because it's kind of that big tourist hub, it does kind of take away from the magic of it. Like a lot of the places to go see in Paris, they're just kind of like the big buildings, but then you go and see it and then you're just like, okay, let's go. You know, like it just kind of takes away from the magic a little bit. And the last thing that I wasn't a huge fan of in Paris was the safety. Now, I did actually have my phone stolen in the city, the major city that I felt the most unsafe in everywhere. And it wasn't that we necessarily had bad interactions with people besides getting my phone stolen. Vibe, it just did not feel safe. I would not want to be walking around there past like 5, 6 p.m. I would stay very close to the hotel. Just did not feel incredibly safe there. Overall, I say Paris is definitely worth a visit, but go for 1 or 2 days. Pick out 1 or 2 things that you really want to see. Hop on one of those bus tours and hop on one of those tours so you can go see specifically what you want to see. Head somewhere else in France or to another country to kind of get foods or local French feeling. I would definitely not spend a ton of time in Paris. The iconic things, do some of the museums because the museums are incredible, but not a place to spend a lot of time. Overall, I'd give the city a 4 out of 10. Not my favorite, but definitely glad that I crossed that off my bucket list. So I regret going. I think if we ever went again, because there was a couple museums that we didn't get to see, would go back and do those museums. Have you guys been to Paris? Have you been to France? Do you have a different opinion of Paris than the rest of France? I want to know what you guys think. And thank you for watching.